when we think about these trauma responses in the individuals that we were working with, what we found then is we sat with that and looked at how does that impact on how they're engaging with their family, in their couple relationships, with their children. And what we noted is they often came to us worried and concerned about their children. So like I said, we had a group from 35 to 60. You have individuals that are 60 that are looking at their adult children and saying, there's substance abuse problems, there's domestic violence, kids are being bullied at school, or they are the ones that are bullying, children having delays in developmental milestones. This was regards to toddlers, for example, suicidal ideations and attempts within adolescence, difficulty in terms of connecting with others, difficulty in terms of managing emotions, a lot of anger outbursts, especially within the adolescent and toddler range. But today what I want to get into is how do we get there? What is this moment, these trauma responses in the individual that has experienced war trauma, torture, so forth, and then coming in and saying, this is happening with my child. What is this moment here that often we don't really get into and we don't really unpack? And so that really became the focus of the work that we were doing with families. And so one of the key things that came up in the work that we did was really around attachment. And so attachment theory was developed by a psychologist called John Bowlby. And it focused on relationships and bonds between people, really starting with, those primary relationships with primary caregivers. And what he speaks about is the individual. So it can be mom, dad, it can even be a granny, but whoever is the caregiver, their availability and ability to respond to an infant's needs establishes a sense of security in their children. And so going back to the image where I had about Ashanti, we would look then at these adults, these adolescents, and what we noted was that we found abandonment issues, low self-esteem, relationship challenges, struggling to assert themselves in spaces, not able to ask for their needs, engaging in rebellious or risky behavior to generate some response from a mom who's not, or a dad who's just not able to respond, complex post-traumatic stress responses. And if you see, as I spoke about the trauma responses in the beginning, we've got the 3 post-traumatic stress responses, the 3 key ones, which is hypervigilance, avoidance, and intrusive memories. And we see that coming up again within our kids that we're working with, and linking it to, in a sense, their parents' experiences of this woundedness. And so in terms of the transgenerational trauma, we're looking at how the woundedness moves down, and then how, once again, we find it being replayed. And this, in essence, is the cycle that we look at. And so when we think about what trauma does, those key assumptions around the shattering of safety and trust in self, others, in the world, and we see this transference of woundedness, we know that in the children we are working with, we see again the shattering, right? So the lack of trust in self, others, in the world, and the lack of a sense of safety.